hiring a bunch of SDRs is not going to solve your issues. And so I've been speaking with a lot of organizations from IT services firms to M&A capital advisory firms to private equity firms to software companies. You know, I come back from the software space. We're working with a lot of different just B2B services companies. And one thing I'm seeing is that people are stuck in 2018, 2019, where they could just put a bunch of sales development representatives to cold call, cold email, and you just go to these events and don't really leverage what we have in today. And it depends on what side of you are on LinkedIn, but if you're on my side of LinkedIn, everyone's telling you, oh, my Claude bot just replaced my entire SDR infrastructure. I'm a one-man team, which is true. Some people have been able to do that, but this might help you discern from the noise and how you can actually take actionable steps of moving forward. And so, again, this would be a very, very raw video. It's just me talking because I feel so passionate about this because it's sometimes frustrating. So, quite candid, why I have this agency, I have a job, right? And so when I have this job, as a sales organization, you realize that wow, this is archaic, right? We're still running on some, legacy type software where we're manually sending emails, we're going to events, we don't really have leverage technology of having intent signals, right? Or sometimes people don't have a good partner network they're working with to get those intent signals, people who are interested. Different tools like Clay, right? Clay is a fantastic tool, enrichment tool, even though they just bumped up the prices. It's a fantastic tool to get more personalized when you talk to someone. The idea is here, there's so much AI technology nowadays that hiring 10 SDRs is just not going to help you, right? And those SDRs, they're likely new grads who don't really know what's going on. And so what you're going to notice is that the GTM engineer, the go-to-market engineer, is going to be a humongous rise. And think of it like an orchestrator for your sales team. And so what I've seen, I've been working with a couple Series A SaaS companies, and what we started doing is we actually changed our offer to have partnerships as more of an upsell, right? A long-term strategy, because it's really honestly more prevalent to the $50 million plus space, because some of these guys, they just need immediate revenue now, either trying to get bought out or whatnot. It's a good strategy to have if you're 5 million plus, of course, but again, people don't really hit stride to 50 million, to be quite honest. So, as we're trying to target that via SMBs, startups right now, we're taking a direct sales approach and helping them build their cold email, cold LinkedIn infrastructure to start getting more pipeline. The idea is yes, you can cold call all day, you can get a ton of meetings on the calendar. It does not mean that they're ready to buy. And so there's two frames of thought, right? Of one, right, you target the 3% in which you use intent signals, or you use a tool like Built With, which has software that you can see, okay, what kind of technology they're using, right? Or you can look at recent news. If they just raised funding, okay, they're probably in hyper growth mode, that's time to target now. Or recent news about some integration, right? Your software works really well with that integration, or your service works really well with that integration. The idea is you're okay, there's a reason to reach out to them, right? And you add an offer of not necessarily, hey, let's set up a time so you can buy my stuff, but it's now, depending on your offer, if it's very front end cold traffic heavy, which, long story short, is basically hey, does this bring you new money, or is this making your existing money more valuable, right? So the idea is you're how can you basically give an asset or a lead magnet, which, again, if you don't know lead magnet, I'm gonna break down every single little concept. It's basically giving something that is valuable, a portion of your service, that would then make the buyer look at you in a separate light to be, okay, cool, he or she knows what she's talking about. And this actually helped me solve my problem. So anytime I associate any sort of problem in my mind around that ecosystem, I'm gonna think of that person. And then when you reach out again, or they might reach out to you inbound, they're gonna be hey, let's talk. And that could be an audit, that could be a ROI tool, whatever it may be, right? Something of value for them. That's that 3%, right? You're going to target that 3% that are ready to buy right now. And there's another frame of thought where it's everyone is targeting that 3% now, right? Although yes, you should do it. It's one of those things where it's yes, everyone's doing it. You should, because you never know. The other aspect of it is by the rest of the 97% in your total addressable market, every 60 days, every 45, 60 days, send 1 or 2 really good emails, right? And so the idea is you're keep them top of mind. in this day and age in AI, and especially like nowadays for these startups, if you're a startup who is any level, to be honest, and even on these enterprise level players too, I'll be honest, if you don't have a proper engine going, like people just don't know who you are. The main reason you don't have nearly as much business as you want is because they just don't know who you are. And the frustrating part as an individual sales rep or your SDR, your account executive, is that they don't have the infrastructure likely behind them to be known, right? So lots of people do content, lots of people do paid ads. And so when you look at, let's say, cold email and cold LinkedIn as an outreach aspect, right? Like there's content you can do, which it's one to many. There's paid ads, there's one to many, right? And that can bring some awareness. I personally have always expertise in the one-to-one outreach, and I find that the most, at least interesting for me and most valuable for me, is because it's one-to-one, right? You're making connection with that person as to why they should listen to you now, why their offer is going to help them basically elevate or increase their life in terms of value, right? And so, again, not to get too deep into it, but you're going to notice a lot of SDRs positions to be replaced or removed and replaced with a GTM engineer, which I'm honestly all for, because that's what our service does. Like we've switched around from the partnership model, like I mentioned, because the main aspect of partnerships is like, yeah, you'll get referral leads, but honestly, the most valuable thing you'll find in partnerships in any sort of realm is the intent signals, right? It's like getting that buyer insight. They'll let you know what the buyer's thinking, which is way more powerful, because if you look at it from a sales perspective, the reason why you do not like close as many deals as you want is not necessarily like, hey, the leads suck, right? If you say the leads suck and they're qualified on paper, you either are expecting them to buy when they're not ready to buy, right? You can't force someone to buy, or more likely, like your framing is off. Right? You have to understand that people buy at their own pace. Sometimes there are limitations that they can't control, right? And so how can you just keep yourself top of mind in that 97%, and then during that 3%, when you want to hit them, boom, you're ready to go. And so, like there are aspects of the sales organization you're going to see a lot change, and like it's one of those things where if you're currently a sales rep right now, like I really encourage you to evangelize like internally, and not just for me. Like obviously our service does that from the like a advisory perspective, but like even having as a hire, like think of them as like a RevOp engine that's going to help you feed more opportunities to make you more focused cold calls. Like if your SDR is blasting 200 phone calls a day that has no reason to reach out, it's going to be a very, very hard time to actually reach out to them. And with the day and age of AI, people's inboxes get flooded, right? A lot of the same messaging is the same crap. So how do you discern yourself? By really understanding the one-to-one aspect of what do they actually care about. Doing more market research. You can't just throw your offer on board like typical Hormozius type offer where it's like, hey, we'll get you X in 90 days, blah, 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 depending on how front-end cold traffic, how warm traffic it is. But yeah, like I feel really passionately sales and marketing is going to change significantly in the B2B space. Within the next like 3-4 years, already is changing, but I think it's going to exponentially change because now it's more difficult for people to get jobs. People are just trying to find ways to differentiate themselves and be different, and so yeah, that's something I feel near to my heart. If you are a sales rep, or if you're a founder, or if you're a CRO who's like, shoot, like I'm struggling with my cold email outreach. I'm struggling. I'm getting my thing through referrals. I'll tell you, like, number one thing you should figure out is, one, your offer, right? Is your offer front-end cold traffic ready, which means can they get new money versus old money? Two, right? Are they actually able to want to buy your service, right? Is it the right time for them? And if it's not, keep them in touch. Keep them in your ecosystem. There's other aspects where content comes into play, where you keep them warm by giving value, by giving value, by giving value. Gary Vaynerchuk has this thing where it's like, hey, jab, 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 left hook, where it's like, hey, give, and then ask. But Hormozius kind of changed it up a little bit in terms of like, just give, at least from the one-to-many perspective and the one-to-one aspect. Maybe give still, and then ask, because sometimes they might just need the initiation to move. Another aspect too, I think we're in legacy systems where we're not really enticed to really increase speed to lead, and I struggle with this sometimes as well, because when you're hiring someone, right? Like it's like, all right, you have an SDR who's working like 8 hours a day. Okay, what if a lead comes in during the nighttime, right? What if someone has an interest to reply at like 8 p.m. Right? The idea is like, how fast can you reply to someone to move forward? And so the idea is, you're like, I've seen it enterprise level organizations, and like any single account manager who plays in like the enterprise and market space, they'll tell you that like there's always a qualm between the SDR team and the AE team, because sometimes the SDR team will be like, hey, this account executive can't close, like whatever, like he's wasting our leads, or the AE is going to be like, hey, this person can't give me qualified leads, and it's because they're both set up to fail. And sometimes the AEs are just sourcing themselves. Like I know I've had to basically source all my deals myself, right? Either through partners or through myself. And so the whole aspect of the demand generation, where a lot of enterprise companies are stuck in 2019 thinking they can just blast cold calls, blast cold emails, without actually honing down their go-to-market strategy and working on the top of the funnel and the middle of the funnel, to where the account executive is just based on the selection stage of the bow tie funnel, which I can dive into another video. You're going to find it very hard to navigate. So I don't know. This was a huge yap session. I hope this was valuable. But like there's just a lot of things in my mind that I'm excited about, that I feel like go to market, I feel like sales, I feel like marketing is going to change significantly. And if you can not only work on that direct outreach portion of it, where it's okay, yeah, using the intent signals, you're letting your people know for like the mid-market SMB space and even enterprise space, but leveraging that for your partners as well. Like I don't think a single partner wouldn't love you if you weren't like basically like hot leads for them, right? Like you had tapped into the funnel so hard that people are coming to those partners being like, hey, can you introduce me to the let's say the XYZ rep, right? If once they get one of those, they're gonna hook on and keep on selling for you, because they've already gotten validation. And so I'm not gonna make this video too long, but yeah, there's a lot of great things happening in space right now. I'd love to open a discussion about this, but yeah, enough of the yap session. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks.